Hello, everybody, and welcome to something new that we're trying out here. This is a Pre-3 impressions video, and I stole that name from Brain Scratch Comms because it's got a really nice ring to it. I'm here with my favorite girl, Midori.
I have no idea how to introduce myself.
Well done. So basically the idea behind this is we're just going to do a quick rundown of who's going to be at E3 this year, what our hopes are for this year, basically, because it has not been a very good year for the AAA gaming sphere, that is for sure.
Not only what our hopes are, but, just our expectations in general.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, too. So I guess we'll start by just going down the list of who's having conferences and go from there. We'll start off with some of the big surprises that were announced several months ago, starting with the fact that Sony is not going to be at E3 this year at all. Like, not only are they not going to have a conference, they're not even going to be on the show floor this year, which is incredibly surprising considering that they have been at E3 every single year since its inception. They were one of the companies that helped to kickstart the conference.
Yeah, that is really something. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, it's Sony, they're the guys that make the PlayStation.
Yeah.
You'd think that Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony would all be there, in one way, shape, or form or another, because they are the big name companies. So for one of them to back out, guys, we're just gonna sit this one out, it's a little bit baffling.
There has been a lot of speculation as to why they would do this. They also canceled their big PlayStation Experience conference, which is like a yearly mini E3 conference that they've done over the past few years. A lot of people are saying, one, it might have something to do with the fact that E3 is becoming less and less relevant as time goes on, as more and more companies just rely on the internet to spread news. Like, Nintendo has their Nintendo Directs that they sprinkle throughout the year with all the big announcements.
And now Microsoft and Sony are both, doing their own versions of that. They're starting to do their own versions of that. So it's Sony's State of Play, right?
Exactly. I was actually going to bring that up as well. At the time that we're recording this, it was not that long after the second State of Play that Sony has done. And so far, I'm not a big fan. They don't really have a lot of personality to them.
At all. They don't have any personality. They don't have a lot of interesting stuff in them. They're very underwhelming. I mean, sure, it's exciting to find out about a couple of different things, but it doesn't feel the same as, say, Nintendo Directs.
Yeah, the Directs have some flair. They have some personality. And they try their best to focus on showing us stuff that we didn't really know about. Whereas both State of Plays have focused very heavily on things we already knew were coming out and leaned very heavily on, surprise, here's footage from Final Fantasy VII Remake that'll be coming out in 2031 or whenever.
You make a very good point on that. It's all stuff that we already knew about. I know that, one thing that can be considered something that we didn't know about was gameplay mechanics. And yes, the stuff that we saw in the Iceborne thing for Monster Hunter World, there's some new stuff coming in, that's some new gameplay mechanics and stuff that are exciting and all, but then they straight up say, and Capcom is going to be doing a dedicated stream to talking about the Monster Hunter World thing after this State of Play.
Yeah, they didn't even bother to go more in depth with it. They kept it very, very short, which I don't know about you, but especially when I'm watching a Nintendo Direct, I like them to be a little bit beefier. I like it when they put out a half hour of information.
I do too, honestly. I don't like a really short one that's just hey, here's a thing. Hope you're excited. Bye.
Yep, here's a pre-rendered CG trailer, and that's all that we're going to show you. It's a tough balance to strike between showing us what's coming and then actually talking about it a bit afterwards, because you don't want to talk too much, otherwise people get bored. The other thing that people were speculating on is that it might be because Sony is planning on revealing the PlayStation 5 in their own way sometime soon. And there have been a few developers, like Nipponichi Software has touched on the fact that they have a dev kit in hand. So we know the PlayStation 5 is coming. We don't know when, and Sony's been very tight-lipped about the whole thing.
Didn't they mention that like the next one is going to be backwards compatible?
That was a big thing. They did mention backwards compatibility, yes. And I think they have talked a bit about the specs. I'd have to go back and double check that, but that's not what this discussion is about. I just bring it up because that is one of the things that people are bringing up as a potential reason why Sony is sitting out E3. They're starting to show their more arrogant side like they did with the PS3 and are sort of acting like they're above a lot of other stuff in the gaming community.
Oh, yeah, I guess I can see that with this kind of thing. It's like, oh, we don't even need to be at E3. It's not that we don't have anything to show. We're just going to show it in our own way so that Sony fans can enjoy it and everything. Like, I can totally see them being like that.
Yeah. Though, to be fair, last year's E3 was not very good for Sony. Like, the games that they showed were pretty good. They showed, like, the 4 big games that they talked about at that conference, but it started off really rocky, and everything in between showing off the games was not that good. Like, that was the year where they shoved all the journalists inside a tent and had a guy come out and play banjo before showing off the gameplay trailer for Last of Us 2. And then they had to spend like 20 minutes stalling as everybody left the tent and went to the actual venue for the conference. It was not a very good show. So if it would have been like last year's, I'm actually kind of glad that they're skipping the conference this year.
I heard nothing about that banjo thing. I just I just remembered that last year there were a lot of really like underwhelming debacles like that. Like when they had the dude come up onto the stage and sing like the guy who sings Party, the guy who sings
Andrew WK, and that was actually Bethesda. Which we'll get into later down the line. But yeah, it's a good example of just how weirdly uneven some of the conferences were.
Yeah, and I remember enjoying Microsoft's initially last year because like they had a lot to show, but then a lot of people felt like it's just like a lot of stuff that we don't really care about.
Yeah, and we'll get into them too. But I guess that's all to really say about Sony. They're not going to be there this year, and I thought that was worth noting. Moving on to something that actually made me really happy, EA is not going to have a conference this year.
I'm very, very, very happy about that.
They are always the low point for me.
I can't stand EA in general.
A lot of people can't nowadays. It is worth noting they are going to have a presence at E3. They're doing their stupid like EA Play event that they did last year, which was basically just a big Call of Duty tournament, I think. But yeah, they're not going to have an on-stage conference this year, which is fine by me.
Fine by me. Like, wow.
Guess they'll just have to find another way to let people know that FIFA's coming out again this year.
I'm so done with their hundreds of just remakes of the same sports game.
And let's not forget that last year really backfired in their face given how Anthem turned out. Like, they dedicated, I think it was the last 10, 15 minutes. It wasn't even that. It was more like a half hour because it was split into a talkie segment, a really boring talkie segment, and then like a 15-minute gameplay demo for Anthem with really badly scripted players.
Badly scripted players.
Like, they were doing the whole fake gamer talk back and forth, that sort of stuff. The stuff that I expect to see from Ubisoft.
I am so happy I didn't watch that.
Oh, that's right. You didn't watch many of the conferences last year because you didn't really have the internet for it, right?
Well, I did. Like, last year, I guess I wasn't living with you yet, but was I not?
Because it was in June and you moved in July.
Okay. Well, I had internet through my mobile connection, so I was able to watch a lot of the after the streams and everything.
So you saw a lot of the trailers and things like that, but not the conferences themselves.
Yeah, not the dedicated to a particular game conferences because none of them really interested me like last year. Like last year was just a big old can of worms, and it's like, what do I need these worms for?
What do I need these worms for? I don't fish. That's actually a good way to describe last year's E3. It just sort of happened, there wasn't really a whole lot of oh my god moments.
Yeah. Fishing for information is the context of that joke.
That's a good one, actually. I like that. Write that down. Copyright that. Trademark it.
Too late. Paranatural did it first.
Damn it. To finish up on that, we're both very glad that EA is not going to be bogging down E3 with a press conference this year. I think we can both agree that that's actually a very good thing.
Yes.
So moving on to people who actually are going to be here, next we have Microsoft, which is where we actually get into some of our thoughts and hopes. And Microsoft's conference last year was very, very good. They showed a ton of games, but I have a feeling I'm going to be saying the same thing again this year. Microsoft is going to show a lot of great stuff that I'm going to get on other consoles because they have no exclusives. They have nothing to really get me excited about the fact that I actually own an Xbox One.
Lately, I have been thinking a little bit about it's so hard for me to want to play things on the Xbox One because it's we have a PlayStation 4 and I love the PlayStation 4, but it causes the power to surge in our room half the time. So it's well, that wouldn't happen if I was playing these same exact games on the Xbox One that we own. But then it's just yeah, but it's the Xbox One. And it's yeah, you're right.
It's basically just a Windows machine. I honestly don't have any really big expectations for Xbox One just because they always show a lot of good stuff that is just not going to be exclusive. And even the exclusive stuff is going to be available on both the console and Windows. So if you're a PC gamer, you don't have to have a console. And a lot of the exclusive stuff that they show is stuff like Forza or Halo. Actually, that is one thing I'm sure we're going to see this year is more stuff about the next Halo game that they teased last year.
Really?
Yeah.
They teased a Halo game last year?
It was a very short CGI teaser. I think it was called Halo Infinite, I think it was.
Oh. I think that my brain was just maybe that just has something to do with the HD graphic remake or something.
No, they already did the HD graphic remake stuff. I also think that they're going to show off a new console or consoles because that's also become a bit of a trend. I do wish that they would stop doing that because, how many versions of the Xbox One have we had at this point? We got the original, we've got the Xbox One S, we've got the Xbox One X, which was supposed to be the really compact, super powerful one that they revealed last year. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, since Sony is planning to reveal the PS5 at some point in the future, obviously Xbox is going to try to one-up them by announcing their new console as soon as possible, which I think would be a really bad idea considering it was only last year that they introduced the X.
Yeah.
It's becoming more and more like a Sega situation, where first you had the Genesis, and then you had the CD, and then you had the 32X, and then we're going to make one called the Neptune in between that is just a standalone 32X, but then we're going to cancel that and put out the Saturn. We're going to put that out 6 months earlier than everybody anticipated, pissing everybody off. That's a fascinating story. Y'all should look into it. But I don't have a whole lot to say about Microsoft in general. I have no doubt that they'll put on a pretty decent show if last year was any indication. I just have no idea what they would show that would really get me excited, because they canceled things like Scalebound.
Yeah. Wait, did they cancel it a second time?
No, it got caught in development hell, and then it was officially canceled.
Yeah, but there's been talk lately about Scalebound getting picked back up.
And that's just talk right now, from what I can tell. Nothing official has come of that.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
My thoughts on Microsoft are pretty much the same. I don't really know anything that they would have exclusive that I'd be interested in. Even Halo. I mean, when I was growing up, Halo was something that we did multiplayer amongst friends, at tournaments and stuff. Heck, one time at a church down the street from my house, they actually somehow set it up so that, there would be this giant screen on the wall of the church, and we played multiplayer just out in the open parking lot on the sidewall of this church.
Killing aliens for Jesus.
Yes. Yeah. Like, it was insane. We had so much fun growing up playing Halo multiplayer, but then, like, as they made more and more Halos, kind of reminds me of Call of Duty. As they made more and more Halos with more and more of the same thing, the story itself just, like, when I actually played through the story of the first 3 games, I was just like, wow, this sucks. And then, like, when it came to the multiplayer, it's like, wow, this is the same thing. So, like, it just eventually lost me. So, and they've come out with at least 2 or 3 Halo games since I lost interest in the series.
At the very least, it was not a yearly series like Call of Duty, so it wasn't super bad like that. But
highlight when I say like reminds me of Call of Duty. I'm not saying that it is Call of Duty, all you die-hard fans out there. Call of Duty is, as the name says, a big pile of duty. Halo is actually something good. I will admit it is something that has a lot of heart put into it, at least somewhat. I don't know for certain. I haven't been a part of the series for a while, but it actually does look like it's still a good game and series as compared to Duty Corps.
You know what? I did actually think of something that I'm looking forward to, and I'm hoping that we see a bit more of. Last year, they did a very, very brief teaser for a new 2D Battletoads game from Rare. Which I actually hope that we get to see more of. I don't know how big of a game it's going to be, because they did say it would be a 2D brawler, which is usually, like, those are usually fairly limited games, but just the fact that they are actually making another Battletoads game makes me very happy. Now, where's my new Banjo-Kazooie game, damn it?
And, not only that, I remember a game from last year. I forget what it's called, and I haven't heard anything about it since, but it was that game where you're playing as, like, a girl out in this flooded city. It looked very artsy.
That was SOS, Sea of Solitude, and that was actually EA.
Really?
Yeah, that was EA. That was one of their, that was their big indie title of that year. Because they had Sea of Solitude last year. The year before that, it was A Way Out, which was debatable whether or not it was indie because of how big it was pushed. Year before that, it was Fee, which I heard nothing about before it actually launched. And the only reason I remembered that game was because it ended up in my Steam queue at some point. And then the year before that was Unraveled. So every year they've, like, tried to convince people, look, we're helping indies by putting out endorsing a single indie game every year.
Okay, so I remember Unravel. Fee. What?
It was that game where you play as a little bat thing in a forest, and you learn the language of other animals to communicate with them while fighting off robots that are slowly destroying the forest.
Nope, not ringing any bells. And the one after that?
Well, I'm not surprised at all, because, like I said, there was almost no marketing for that thing. And the one after that was A Way Out, which was the co-op game that you could only play in co-op ever.
Oh, from the guys that made Two Brothers.
Yes.
Okay, and then there was Sea of Solitude, which, big surprise, I haven't heard anything about since. Way to go, EA.
But at the very least, you remembered the trailer, so it was at least a little bit more memorable.
Yeah, it at least caught me, but it's funny that I didn't even remember that it was EA related at all. It's like, oh yeah, that was the thing that EA did. I thought that was Microsoft. Way to go, EA. Now I know why you're not doing anything this year.
Yeah, pretty much. I would just really like to see Rare make an actual single-player experience game again. I know it's not the same team working there, but you have all of these really good IPs that have just been laying dormant, basically since the Xbox 360. They had Banjo-Kazooie, Jet Force Gemini, Perfect Dark. Hell, if you really want a good throwback, make a modern Saberwolf game.
Hashtag Conker's really bad fur day.
Yeah. I actually go through with it and make a sequel to Bad Fur Day, not a reimagining or a remake. Actually use that sequel idea that's been floating around.
Yeah, I personally would love to see a new Jet Force Gemini.
Same, yeah. So moving on, oh boy, this next one's going to be fun discussion. Bethesda. They have not had a good year. They have not had a good year. Let's put it that way. They tried so hard last year to convince people, hey, we're hip, we're down with the kids. They made fun of themselves with the whole Skyrim on Alexa thing, which was a really good bit.
Was that last year?
That was last year. They had Andrew WK come out and play Get Ready to Die, which is the official theme song for Rage 2.
Which, unfortunately, doing a live version of a song does not sound as good half the time as the recorded version.
Oh, if you actually go back and watch that conference, everybody there is so confused about what's happening. Like, nobody knows how to react to what they're seeing when Andrew WK comes out. Like, he's a good performer, he's a consummate showman, and I actually do really like his music, but E3 is not really the time to do things like that, I don't think.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because it's like, those aren't your customers out there in the crowd. Those aren't just regular civilians, those are business people, and every single one of them just like has a look on their faces just like, what's all of this then?
Yeah, that's the press out there, and they are not impressed by that. There were also a lot of really boring talky bits in there. Like, we got the teaser for the next Doom game, Doom Eternal, which does look pretty good. I enjoyed the first Doom. I still haven't finished it yet, but
Me neither.
I thought it was a good throwback to older shooters. We also got, they talked a lot about Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls Online, and that Elder Scrolls card game that is trying to compete with Hearthstone, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I heard that flopped after like the first week.
Yeah, apparently.
And I will admit, though, Elder Scrolls Online is something that I've wanted to play for a really long time. Maybe when I get a dedicated graphics card, I might try it out or something. But yeah, Elsewhere is definitely the one place that I've really wanted to go. So it was kind of fun seeing like a trailer that's like, Elsewhere, cat people, dragons, okay. Because I wasn't expecting dragons. Like, it's just like, you want Elsewhere? Okay, here's Elsewhere with dragons. Okay.
The thing about it is, though, like, again, I find myself wondering what are they going to show, because last year they struggled to have enough content to fill their conference. They ended it on a very, very long presentation on Fallout 76, which we all know how that turned out.
I think that it turned out very badly.
Very, very badly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not a good look for them at all.
It's still not a good look
No,
for them.
That's right. Things are still happening in that game that are...
around that game.
Yeah. It's not done them any favors, and I'm sure they're going to come out and be cheeky about it. Hey, who wants a free canvas bag or some shit like that? Because they're going to try and joke their way back into people's goodwill. I can say that beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Considering that even their dedicated fans have started to lose faith in them with the way that they behaved around Fallout 76, I don't think that they're going to be able to do that very easily, if at all.
It didn't help that we also are getting... I can't remember what it's called, but it's created by the original creators of Fallout.
Outer Worlds.
Outer Worlds, thank you. So we're getting a better Fallout than Fallout 76 at some point soon.
Obsidian Entertainment is the name of the group. Considering that it's in space, like Bethesda's new game that they're talking about, the one that takes place in space.
The next gen one. I think they call that Starlink. No, that's not. That's the Ubisoft game. I
Battle
can't even.
for Atlas.
It wasn't even a teaser. It was like a shot of the moon and a logo, and that was all we got. And then we got a teaser for the next Elder Scrolls game, Elder Scrolls 6, which was just a logo and a great big open field. And that was all we got for that one.
I think there was a city in that field.
No, there was just a field.
I swear to God, it went over the rim of like a mountain and it's just like, look, there's a city in the middle of that forest. Elder Scrolls 6!
Regardless, it has been rumored, I don't know if it's been officially confirmed, that neither their big sci-fi epic or Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be at this year's E3. So immediately, we're down two of their most anticipated titles, so I have no idea what they're going to talk about.
Maybe they're going to talk about actually fixing their shit with 76.
No, they wouldn't do that, because that's a sign of weakness, admitting that you did wrong. Like I said, they'll probably make jokes about it and try to get back in people's good graces that way, but I highly doubt they will actually come out and say, "We are sorry this happened, we apologize to you, you deserved better." And that is something that I wish more game companies would actually do.
Yeah, and like another bit of a can of worms is the whole thing with like they're still doing stuff on the same engine.
Yeah, they're still using, I think it's called the Creation Engine, which was obviously not made for first-person shooters, as like Fallout 3 confirmed, because that was still using the Creation Engine, I think.
Yeah, it feels like every one of their games that they still try to use that engine, and they're trying to do so much more with each game, and like everything just comes out uglier and uglier with each game. Like, you cannot tell me, like, a lot of people say Skyrim's like, look at the beautiful landscapes and everything. Oh yeah, look at the... Wait, what are you talking about? This place is ugly as shit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can see the beauty by running up the side of this mountain here.
By hopping up the side of this mountain here.
Yeah.
Hop, 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 hop. I'll get up there eventually. Hop, hop. Here we go.
They're probably going to talk about Doom Eternal, like I said. They will definitely spend some time on that. Rage 2 is set to release before E3, so I don't think we're going to see a lot about that.
DLC?
DLC, probably, yeah. I doubt we will see anything concerning the Dishonored series. I have very little expectations for the Bethesda conference this year.
Honestly, I had little expectations for Rage in the first place, because wasn't the first Rage, like, didn't that flop?
The first Rage was not very warmly received, if I remember right.
Yeah, I remember, like, seeing it and being like, this game doesn't look very interesting, and it sounds like everybody hates it. Isn't it already in the bargain bin, like, shortly after it came out? So it's like, Rage 2, it's like, yeah, you guys have been waiting for Rage 2, you're all excited for Rage 2. Look at how colorful it is, look at the guns and cars.
That is something I will give them credit for, though. They actually did try to push Rage 2 as having a bit more of a personality, more akin to, say, Borderlands, but it's still just another open-world shooter. And beyond, like, the little glimpses of personality that it's given, it's just another post-apocalyptic shooter game, and I don't see a lot that separates it from that.
And this isn't a compliment. When I saw the trailer for it, I was like, you know, this kind of reminds me of Bulletstorm.
Bulletstorm.
Bulletstorm was the one where you, like, you play as buff guys who crash land on an apocalyptic planet, and you can kick people into cactuses, and guns and explosions. Oh, dude, bro, yeah.
Didn't that also have Duke Nukem as a DLC character? Is that the one that I'm thinking of?
It might be, actually. I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was a Gearbox game, or at least it was in conjunction with Gearbox, because they're the ones who owned the rights to Duke Nukem at the time.
Yeah, I believe that it was, actually.
Yeah. Anything more we want to touch on with Bethesda?
There isn't a lot to touch on with Bethesda.
Which is why, again, it's very surprising to me that they have tried to have a conference every single year since their first one, because they're a pretty big publisher now, but it just does not feel like they put out enough content to justify coming back every single year.
Yeah, so when it comes to, like, hopes and expectations for E3, I don't really have any for them. My only hope and expectation is that I'll eventually play Elder Scrolls Online before it gets shut down.
So moving on from that is Devolver Digital, which I have nothing to say on because I'm certain it's going to be another shitpost conference.
What did they do last year? They were there last year, right?
Yes, and like I said, it was a staged conference that was basically just making fun of things that happen at E3. They made fun of buzzwords, they made fun of, like, new tech being trotted out with little ceremony. They did show some actual gameplay and some actual trailers for games, but the main focus of it was just making fun of the idea behind E3 hype.
What do? They publish a
ton of indie games. Like, it's actually really hard to nail down everything that they do, and they're so prolific now that I can't even really distinguish what they have and haven't made. Like, I know they put out things like My Friend Pedro. I think they did Party Hard, it was, where you play as a murderer who takes out everybody at a party. God, what were some of their other ones? They're putting out a port of Metal Wolf Chaos.
I don't know what that is.
That was a Dreamcast game. It was a very beloved Dreamcast shooter game where you play as the President of the United States, piloting a giant mech against monsters invading the U.S.
I feel like I've heard their name attached to a couple of different things, but like I don't really know who they are and what they do, so I can't really say anything about them because I don't know who they are.
And I'd have a lot more to say about them if it weren't for the fact that, again, whenever they've put out these conferences, and they've done it 2 times in a row now, it's basically just making fun of stuff that happens at other E3 conferences, with a couple of actual trailers sprinkled throughout. But the fact that they are so prolific does make me think that we're going to get a couple of good announcements from them. So with that said, Ubisoft, this is the wild card to me every single year.
Ubisoft. I know that Ubisoft makes a lot of sandbox games, Rayman, and I believe they have the rights to Crash and Spyro right now?
That's Activision.
Okay.
The Activision shows up at a lot of different conferences, but they never have their own conference.
Well, now I'm just like, wait, if Activision has Spyro and Crash, like, what else do they do?
Activision owns a lot of properties. They're also officially known as Activision Blizzard, so all of Blizzard's property are under them.
Right.
Yeah.
And they've been fucking up Blizzard since they got it.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
They thought that if they like merged their name with Blizzard, it would give them more attention and more money. But anyways, I'm off topic. Anyways, Ubisoft. That's how much I care about Ubisoft.
Well, like I said, they're a wild card. It's very difficult to really pin down the quality from year to year. In fact, the quality is usually very uneven from start to finish in every single one of their conferences.
Well, yeah. I mean, just look at, for example, say a Rayman game. It's like, oh, hey, this game looks really great. I love the art style, and the characters are so goofy and fun, and the gameplay is incredibly fun as well. But where's the story?
Well, it's not even just that. Like, they'll show off something really artsy and cool like Rayman and immediately follow it up with something like super soulless like The Crew, for example.
The Crew, that sounds familiar.
Exactly. Nobody remembers The Crew. Which actually, I believe it was last year they showed off a trailer for its sequel. I don't know if it's come out yet, so they might be showing that off. The Division 2 did come out. Yeah, no, I don't care about The Division. I'm hoping for a new Rayman game. We might not see it because I believe the director of Rayman is also the director who's working on Beyond Good and Evil, and he's currently trying to make Beyond Good and Evil 2, which we did see a story trailer of it last year, so maybe we'll actually see gameplay this year.
Oh, Beyond Good and Evil. Okay, sorry. My brain was like, wait, Beyond Two Souls?
No, entirely different.
It's because of the Beyond. And I'm ashamed of myself for that because I actually love Beyond Good and Evil. Like, I'm one of the people that love Beyond Good and Evil. I don't have it in my possession anymore. I know who has it. I just never reached out to them, but it would be awkward. Yeah. But yeah, Beyond Good and Evil is actually a game that I really enjoyed. I found it, like, I was out with my grandpa one day. He took me to a store, and like there was this bin with video games in it. And I think it's the only thing that had video games at this store. Like, they didn't have a section dedicated to video games. They just had some games in this bin. It's like, I like video games. And he's like, okay, pick yourself out a couple of them, but nothing too expensive. So the 2 games that I grabbed out of that bin were Monster Hunter, the very first one, and Beyond Good and Evil. And like Monster Hunter, it was really hard. I didn't understand it. It didn't explain anything, and it kind of required like some online compatibility. So I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing and I don't have internet. So that game just didn't blow over well for me, and I didn't get into it until like the ultimate version of the third game, and that's when I was just like, oh my god, this game series is amazing. But Beyond Good and Evil, that game grabbed me, and it inspired so many ideals in me. It was such an interesting game, and I was just like, I want more. More. So when I found out about Beyond Good and Evil 2 initially, when it was like in some sort of desert environment or something, I was just like, yes, more of this, more. And it got my hopes up when I saw like a gameplay leak and everything. So the fact that we're actually going back to Beyond Good and Evil after so long, it initially excited me, but then I'll admit, I have mixed feelings about it, because it's like, sorry, I'm talking for a while.
No, go ahead. This is what we're here for.
It excited me because it's like, look at like this world, look at how it functions and works, and like there's so much potential for it. And that's just one world, because there's going to be multiple worlds that you can fly your ship between and build up a crew and stuff. But what baffles me is that, like, supposedly that this is a prequel to the original Beyond Good and Evil. That's a negative flag number one for me.
I think they've also said that they want to make it into an open world game, which is another red flag considering, again, Ubisoft.
Yeah, third red flag, Jade isn't the main character. In fact, the main characters are some new faces, well, I'm not sure if I can say African-American girl since she's in space, so whatever her space ethnicity is, and a chimpanzee who gives me some strong comedy relief vibes. Okay, and Jade, fourth red flag, is the villain. It's like, we lost Jade, she, like, maybe my controller or something, but like she joined the dark side and we have to save her. It's like, but that makes it sound like this is a sequel and it's a prequel. Like, are you going to make a third prequel eventually? Like, what is this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my enthusiasm for the game has dropped off, like my enthusiasm for many things in gaming has dropped off.
Yeah, it's like, I want Beyond Good and Evil 2, but you're not making Beyond Good and Evil 2, you're just slapping the name on there and throwing Jade in.
Pretty much, yeah. Couple of things that I'm fairly certain are going to end up there this year, because they seem to end up there every year. They're going to announce the yearly Just Dance game. They're going to show another friggin' Trials game, which I'm getting really sick of seeing those everywhere.
I only know of like one Trials game and I suck at it.
Yeah, they, like I said, they've been pushing those out for years now. And the only other one that I can think of that we'll probably see next year, of course, we're going to see another Assassin's Creed game. Which I'm not really looking forward to.
Yeah, I am really sick to death of the Assassin's Creed series.
A lot of people have been telling me, oh no, it's gotten so much better since Origins and Odyssey came out. And I'm like, okay, what exactly did they do different? They added in RPG elements, so essentially they introduced grinding into the series, which to me is not a good thing. The one positive that I gave them when Odyssey came out was the fact that you could play a man or woman and you had the option to choose your own sexuality, which was pretty much undone with the DLC that they implemented that forces you to choose to have a child, and you have no say in the matter. The choice that you make is whether you make it for love, so you can stop being a homosexual and then just become heterosexual to raise a straight family, or you can choose it specifically just to get it over with and have progeny, which is kind of disgusting to me.
That's incredibly disgusting. I remember that now. Like, what the hell were they thinking with that?
I mean, maybe we'll get For Honor 2. I don't know.
and it's just funny what a shit show the Assassin's Creed series has been since Origins came out, because it's like, oh, hey, look, you can play as a girl now for the first time in Assassin's Creed. You mean like Unity? And like Origins is like, look, it's Assassin's Creed Origins. Why is it called Origins? It's not the origin story of the Assassin Order. Like literally, it's like, look, here is the Assassin's Blade. It's been passed down for generations. And then like with Odyssey, it's like, oh, mythological creatures. Like, I think there was a Minotaur.
Minotaur, I do think you can hunt down and kill the Gorgons in that game as well.
It's starting to, like...
They're breaking from the whole history angle that sort of defined the series when it first started.
Yeah, they're breaking from history and instead, like, slowly diving into mythology?
I mean, the series always did have an element of, like, science fiction to it, obviously, with the stuff that happens in the future, but it does feel really weird that all of a sudden they are incorporating fantasy and mythological themes into the series, which, again, I think is just an afterthought considering the fact that they put RPG elements in there. So obviously, if it's an RPG, you need to have some larger-than-life enemies to fight as well.
I guess they missed a beat with that in Origins, considering that it was in Egypt. I guess they didn't do as much research on Egypt history as one might have thought, considering, like, I didn't see any mythological creatures in there.
No. Like I said, this is a relatively new thing that they did.
Yeah.
If they do stick to the pattern, we may also get a cameo from Miyamoto, because like they've done that the last two games, the last two conferences they had. They had Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle when that came out, and they also last year brought Miyamoto on stage to talk about the Star Fox stuff for Starlink, which by the way also got a new DLC campaign specifically for Star Fox, which looks pretty cool.
Yeah, but a lot of people are upset because it's only on the Nintendo version of the game.
Gee, I wonder why. Nintendo is very stringent with keeping their stuff on their consoles. So
yeah,
it's understandable. It's just the risk that you run with having exclusive content like that.
Yeah, but I will admit, Starlink really doesn't grab me at all because, like, I tried out the game and I was playing it and everything, and it's just like, oh, so anything that I do, I can just come back in, like, a couple minutes and do it again. There's no, like...
There's no permanency, you mean?
Yeah, there's no permanency, so it's just like, oh, hey, I found a thing. I can do it once, do it 5 to 10 times, or not at all. It's like that's not entertaining to me. Like, if you're setting up stuff as like, oh hey, there's a thing here, like it's like they have collectathon elements in these games of like, oh, go here and get this thing because you can, and when you do it, I think that it might gray out the icon, but you can go back and do it again. It's like, what's the point? It's boring to me. Like, I can't go back to places and it's like, I already did this. It's gone now. I don't have to worry about it. Like a lot of other games.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's something that actually takes me out of it a lot. It's like, didn't I already destroy the enemies and this base over here that I thought that I could just pass through casually on my way to my next big adventure?
Really, the big thing that I'm hoping for is, like, I would like to see a brand new IP from them, because that is what usually excites me the most from Ubisoft. Just go back to do something like Valiant Hearts or Grow Home again. That would legitimately get me excited. I don't want to see another sandbox game. I don't want to see another Watch Dogs or Assassin's Creed.
Or what's it? The one with army people.
That's very descriptive.
Is it Ghost Recon Wildlands?
Ghost Recon, that's another one. And they've also got, like, Rainbow Six as well. Rainbow Six Siege. The fact that they still have Tom Clancy's name slapped on games that they're releasing is just... That's a big no-sell for me. I really don't like... I don't like seeing Tom Clancy's name attached to stuff, I'll say that.
Is Tom Clancy still alive?
No, he died several years ago, but Ubisoft still has the rights to use his name to sell their products.
Oh.
Yeah. Shall we move on to Square Enix then?
I guess that's the note we're gonna end on for Ubisoft.
It's a better note than they deserve.
Square Enix. Whee!
I'm just not. I'm struggling to think of where to start with them because yet again, I find myself wondering what are they going to show? Because
I thought you were like heard something that's just like, what's that noise or what's that smell?
No. I'm probably going to cut out that big silence, by the way. But like last year, they had like a sort of Nintendo Direct style where it was a pre-recorded conference where they just showed segment after segment. They showed the new Tomb Raider game a little bit. They showed the new Just Cause. They showed off The Quiet Man, which, man, you can tell that they weren't proud of that. Octopath was in there. They showed the same Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer for like the third time in a row at E3 at that point. They also had some Dragon Quest stuff and some Octopath stuff in there. I think I already said Octopath.
You did.
But yeah, a lot of it was stuff that we already knew was coming, and Square Enix is once again a company like Bethesda that I get worried when they have multiple conferences multiple years in a row, because I just wonder what are they going to have to show?
Well, they didn't really have anything to show last year, did they?
Yeah, and they gave most of it to other companies, like the big Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer. The trailer reveal was given to Microsoft, of all companies. But let's see, this year, they have already said that we're going to see more about the Final Fantasy VII Remake in June, and I would not be surprised if that made up the bulk of their presentation, because they're still leaning hard on this thing, even though, at this point, all of my enthusiasm for it is gone. I have absolutely no confidence and no faith that modern Square Enix can actually remake it and do the story justice.
I gotta agree with you on that. Like, I see the stuff where it's like, yeah, Final Fantasy VII. But, like, I don't even, like, notice my own lack of enthusiasm for it.
Yeah. It's not even like the gameplay changes. I'm willing to accept the changes to the battle system.
In fact, I love the changes to the battle system. It's been an evolution over several games for them. Final Fantasy 13, it's like, oh, this battle system is awesome, but the game is linear as fuck.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 15, it's like the gameplay is, well, actually that one had some serious flaws with even the gameplay. The fact that your character, the main character, he's the only one that can use like certain powers and whatnot, and the other characters, they can only use magic because you're around or something. Like, it was very weird. The entire thing was, it's very clear how the development hell affected that game, and I just know that that's going to be a running theme with Final Fantasy VII as well, especially considering that they're separating it into like parts.
They're still doing the episodic thing. Have they confirmed that?
I don't know, but they never confirmed that they weren't.
This is true, yeah. And it's modern Square Enix.
And considering that everything that we've seen for the game, every time they release anything new for it, including in the recent release of footage for the game, tell me what stuff from Final Fantasy VII that you remember and everything did you see in that trailer?
Aerith gave Cloud a flower, and they had a big robot with a scorpion tail.
Yeah, the big robot with a scorpion tail from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, literally everything that we were shown in the new trailer was from the beginning of the game, which does kind of make sense considering that, again, they announced like a year and a half ago that they were scrapping everything and moving all development in-house.
Yeah, so aside from Sephiroth, which has me wondering, like, are we going to get to a point where Sephiroth actually appeared in the fucking game? Or are we just going to, like, retcon, like, the original story and throw Sephiroth in there somewhere? Like, basically, I feel like this is just really supplying to the episodic thing that we were expecting before. And episode 1 is going to be, like, that beginning segment of the game up to when they left the city initially.
Yeah, it really makes me worried for the story and the characters and I have no idea how, in this modern day and age, how they're going to handle certain scenes. Like, how are they going to handle the scene where Cloud has to dress up in drag and sneak into the Dawn's house? How are they going to handle the scene where he basically gets assaulted by a bunch of gay, sweaty men?
That depends on if you go there like without everything.
Yeah, this is true, yes, but my point stands. Like, that's going to be a very weird scene for them to translate into, like, high-fidelity graphics, which, let's be fair here, Square Enix, most of their big, high-profile games have always been more about the graphics nowadays.
Yeah, I guess it is going to be pretty weird, so I can't help but feel like they're going to change a lot about the characters, the story, how everything progresses. It just feels like they're going to have to change a lot of stuff that is honestly really memorable about Final Fantasy VII in order to make a modern Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. The fact that, like, nowadays, Square Enix, when they started to do that whole anthology thing with Final Fantasy VII, releasing all of that ancillary material for it, so much of it portrays the series as if it boils down to a rivalry between Cloud and Sephiroth, which was never there in the original. It was a much bigger scale than just Cloud versus Sephiroth in the original game. It dealt with themes of a massive company basically ruling the world, the death of the planet. It dealt with themes of identity crisis. It dealt with themes of sexuality at sometimes, of family. And I just don't see them being able to do those themes justice in the remake.
Especially with how pretentious they've become over the years.
Oh, yeah. We could talk for hours on that, but that's that's a different subject entirely.
It is. So aside from Final Fantasy VII, we've talked about Final Fantasy VII this entire time.
Well, that's their big ticket item. That's basically the only thing that they really have. What else are they going to show? Another new Tomb Raider game? Maybe another new, well, actually, there are a few other things they could show. Maybe Dragon Quest Builders 2. They might show some stuff for the Switch version of Dragon Quest 11. And there is also the potential that we might get another nice, surprising, like, pixel game like Octopath Traveler, which, by the way, is fantastic and probably the best thing they put out for years.
There's also the dude that makes the Drakengard and Nier games.
This is true, yes. Though that it's hard to say what he's up to, what he's doing at any point. Actually, I'm not sure. Is he directly involved with Square Enix?
Well, to my knowledge, they are Square Enix games, which means that, like, the guy who makes these games, he's directly related with Square Enix and everything. I mean, sure, he is his own thing who makes his own games, but, like, when I look at the Drakengard series, it's like, wow, these are incredibly emo as fuck, just like Square Enix games.
That is true. They are very depressing.
Extremely so.
Like I said, we might see another Dragon Quest project. I'm sure they're going to talk a little bit more about the Switch version, which I'm okay with. I like their Dragon Quest games. Even their spin-off games tend to be very high quality.
Yeah, but I will say, like, the most recent one, Dragon Quest 11, I think that they need to, like, change up their musical score, because it was weird seeing, like, Dolahans chasing a woman with intent on killing her through a dark forest to circus music.
That's a pretty complicated issue, mostly boiling down to the fact that Square Enix does not want to have to pay royalties to the original composer, who actually still owns the rights to all of the music in Dragon Quest, basically. So instead of using a full orchestra, a lot of stuff in Dragon Quest is MIDI quality.
Ugh.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm a broken record, but yeah, I don't have a lot of expectations for Square Enix this game. Are you seeing a pattern here, folks? There's an air of underwhelming going into this E3, and I would love to be proven wrong, but I just don't see a lot of these companies bringing a huge amount of excitement this year.
Yeah, it's just been underwhelming year after underwhelming year. It's no wonder that E3 is a dying function.
Convention?
It's a dying breed. It's a dying thing.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's not like CES, which is a tech show that actually predated E3. CES is much more about hardware and robotics. So obviously you would want to see stuff like that in person rather than just over a stream. But with software, with a lot of stuff like that, you get so much more of it on the internet nowadays. You get a lot more from like trailers being dropped or companies like Nintendo doing their directs, which is actually our next topic, is Nintendo.
Yeah, Nintendo. Nintendo is actually something that I still look forward to. They are my light in the darkness.
Same. I will say last year's E3 Direct could have been better, mostly because last year felt like a Smash Brothers Direct with a little bit of other stuff tacked onto it.
Tacked onto the front of it.
Tacked onto the front of it, yes. And then they spent like, it was like a 45-minute Direct. I would say about 30 minutes of that was dedicated specifically to Smash Brothers.
Yeah, the press themselves were not impressed. Investors were not impressed.
I can understand why, too. Like, I'm a big Smash Brothers fan, but if you weren't a fan of Smash, or if you just wanted more than what you were given, you didn't get it that year. They did some stuff that did excite me. They showed off the new Fire Emblem game, which I love Fire Emblem games, so that was good for me. They talked a little bit about Starlink. They had a big indie showcase sizzle reel, but they didn't really talk specifically about that stuff. The other thing that did excite me was the fact that they released Hollow Knight the same day. And that was my first experience playing Hollow Knight, and I absolutely love that, and I can't wait for Silksong to come out.
I can't either. I didn't finish Hollow Knight, and I am not the best person at the game. But it's strangely enough, it's a game that doesn't aggravate me as much as a lot of other games, like say Sekiro. I play Sekiro and I get to the first mini boss and I'm like, ah, ah, ah! But I play.
She gave up on it pretty quickly.
I didn't give up. I just you were like, can I try it? And it's just like, you know what? You're gonna be a lot calmer and a lot better at it, so I'll just watch you play every now and then. But Hollow Knight, it's like. It's cartoony, it's fun, and it's something that I can take the time to get down the rhythm and beat for. Like, I actually didn't have any panic attacks while playing the first boss of Jotun, for example. Like, Jotun, I've actually, I beat the first boss on my first try, and I beat the second boss on my second try. So, like, I am capable of playing, like, hard boss rush games, like Jotun, Cuphead, Hollow Knight, but I just I fell out of Hollow Knight because I got into like some other games, and I just haven't gone back because it's like, boy, I don't even remember like where I left off and everything. I am going to suck going back into that game. But Silksong I am excited for. I do love Hollow Knight, and I am looking forward to like more, if not playing the game myself, like seeing other people play through the game and learn about its story and whatnot.
So, Nintendo.
Sorry, Nintendo. I am legitimately sorry. I just got onto a little bit of a stick there. It's no disrespect towards you. I actually am very excited this year for Nintendo because there's a lot of stuff that we've been waiting for.
I don't think they're going to spend a lot of time on Fire Emblem because I believe that's actually... Well, they might. I think it's coming out very close to E3. I can't remember if it's before or after, but I do expect there to be some presence for it.
If it comes out after, then that's all the more reason for them to have a lot of focus on it, because last year was basically essentially a teaser for it. Like, we didn't get a ton of information about the game, its story, and its gameplay, how everything is going to work. So I would think that E3 would be a great place for them to devote some time to that information.
Very true, yes. We're definitely not going to see anything for Metroid Prime 4, because they have They have stated that they're starting from scratch with that. They're handing it over to Retro Studios, and Retro only a couple of months ago put out a job listing for assistance with getting the project off the ground. So they're probably not going to have anything to show for that. We might get some more information about whatever Monolith Soft is working on now, because allegedly they're working on a new Zelda title, or something to do with the Zelda series.
Who's Monolith Soft?
They make the Xenoblade games.
Oh. So, in relation to both of those things...
Yes, go ahead.
Metroid Prime 4, when they initially announced that, they jumped the shark hard. They jumped the shark really hard on that. They announced it way too early.
It was Shimigami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem all over again.
Shimigami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. I don't know what happened in relation to that. Like,
they showed a teaser for it back when the Wii U was still relatively new, which just basically consisted of character PNGs. And then it went dead silent for like 3 years before they released it as Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which is, by the way, a great RPG, but it is obviously very different from what they initially planned.
Yeah. And the people at Monolith Soft getting their hands on a Zelda title, that excites me greatly, because the whole thing with Xenoblade games lately seems to be like this huge open world and whatnot, and that was the whole thing with Breath of the Wild. So, like, that gives me hope that we're going to see another Breath of the Wild style Zelda game, but this time, like, they're going to take what they learned from Breath of the Wild, what they were able to accomplish with Breath of the Wild, and improve upon it.
Yep.
That they're going to have a story that you actually interact with. They're going to have like more of a world for us to interact with, more monsters, more ways to play the game. Like, I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited for this. Like, oh, I feel my entire body getting tingly. Like,
I should clarify too. We don't know if it's actually the next Zelda game they're working on, but they did post a lot of a few images of concept art for a Zelda project, and that's basically all we have to go off of. But if they do end up being directly involved with a new Zelda game, I do think that is a really, really good choice.
I do as well. I don't know what they'll do for dungeons this time around. I don't know what they'll do for races in the world itself, but I'm still super excited. Like, I really, really want them to be the ones that are working on this. I don't even play the Xenoblade games, and I blame the first Xenoblade for that, like, that weird system for, like, these are the main enemies of the game. You have to, like, do this, then do this while that's affecting them in order to knock them down, and then everybody can do more than one damage to them other than your main character. It's like, and this is going to be a running theme throughout the game? Yeah, I'm out.
It's been a couple of years now since Mario Odyssey came out. I think we might get, if not a trailer, we might get some hinting as to a new Mario game, which would be nice.
It would be nice, but at the same time, like, they're very focused on the Super Mario Maker 2 right now.
That is true. That's coming out. That's coming out very soon too.
Yeah, so I don't have exactly any hopes for a new Mario title. Like, at least no expectations. I would love for there to be something new Mario related, but if we did get something new Mario related, it'd probably be a spin-off at this time. Let's see. What are other Nintendo properties? Oh, you distracted me very heavily from this. Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing.
They did tease that way back with the Smash Direct where Isabelle was revealed, but we have heard absolutely nothing about it since then.
Yeah, but it's coming out this year, supposedly.
Allegedly. That could change.
They haven't talked about it since, but it's allegedly coming out this year. And it's like, I would love more information on that, especially if they somehow did something different with this one. Like, what they did different with the last one was they made you the mayor, and they introduced, like, these town projects that you could build and whatnot. It was really good and whatnot, but at the same time, it's like you could only do town projects that your citizens come up to you and are like, hey, I would love to see you build one of these around town. And, like, they actually designated certain types of town projects to certain personalities of characters. Like, I guess it's a little bit ironic that all the Zen-related stuff was all designated to grumpy characters. But those were, like, the very, like, feudal Japan-themed stuff that, like, I really wanted, and I never got any of them. You grumpy bear, why don't you want me to build things for you? I love you. I let you stay in my town with all the ladies.
So you want something other than being like a political figure in town?
Well, I don't mind still being the mayor of town. I'm perfectly fine with that. But I'd like it to be a little bit easier to make the projects that you actually want. And I'd also like something new introduced. Like, rather than just the typical, hey, I have a house, I'm going to sell a bunch of stuff and make lots of money so that I can build stuff and build my house. Like, it's the same song and dance as, like, every Animal Crossing since its conception.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd like something a little bit more introduced. I do appreciate the stuff that they introduced over time with New Leaf. Like, for example, the function where you could use the amiibo cards to put citizens that you actually wanted into your town. I really appreciate that. Unfortunately for me, I haven't been able to get my amiibo cards back from my siblings, and I might have given hundreds of dollars worth of amiibo cards to my niece by accident. Like, I don't remember. So it's like, I want my cards back so that if they do keep that functionality, I can actually have citizens that I want. For example, Anka.
Mm-hmm.
Anka is a very popular character, I'm happy to say now, and I love Egyptian-themed things. I love cats. I would love to be able to just take that character and be like, I want you in my town. Okay.
Really, it's always exciting to try and go into Nintendo and hope and pray that they do something with one of their other franchises as well. I would like to see a properly done new Star Fox game. I would not mind seeing a new F-Zero game, though at this point I think that's a bit of a foregone conclusion.
I think that, like, if they are making a Star Fox racing game, maybe they'll have Captain Falcon appear as, like, a cameo.
That would be nice, yeah. Speaking of, no, it's way too early. I was going to say maybe a new Mario Kart gets teased, but I highly doubt it, especially since Deluxe is apparently still selling very well.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any reason for a new Mario Kart game just yet.
Let's see. Do you think that we'll get any more expansions for Splatoon 2? Because they have been very, very dedicated to keeping that game going, and I'm actually very impressed that we are still getting new content for it well after its launch.
Well, first, a little bit of salt in relation to your...
Oh god, here we go.
No, it's not anything big, just a little bit of salt in relation to the Mario Kart thing. It's too soon for them to do that because they actually wait to come out with a new version of the same game, unlike certain other companies.
Yeah,
like the ones who was it? Their name, it starts with an E and it ends in an A. What was that? Anyways, rather than coming out with the same game year after year, and in relation to Splatoon, I regret not getting into Splatoon 2 sooner. I mean, yes, I do. I have gotten a lot better about my aggression and competitiveness in Splatoon. And Splatoon 2, I just didn't have the online functionality to... I didn't even have Splatoon 2 when it first came out.
Which is fine because the game was not... I bought it when it first came out, and as somebody who was there at launch, I can say that I really wish I would have waited, because the game was not worth full asking price when it first came out. And now that it has all of this new stuff in it, like, I haven't touched it personally, since I think the Octo expansion came out, because I'm feeling a little burnt out on it, and I'm not the kind of person who likes to dedicate myself to playing an online game over and over and over again.
I have been trying to play it a little bit more lately. In fact, a group of my friends are trying to form Splatoon groups based on like these different people that play different roles in a team so that we can play together and stuff. I can get excited for stuff coming out for Splatoon 2 because I'm trying to get back into it and everything. And it's gone on longer than they initially thought that it would last originally, right?
Yeah, I believe originally when it was revealed, they were only committed to supporting it for 1 full year after it came out. And here we are on, I think it's been out for 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
And they're still supporting it. And in fact, that's one of their big things that they're doing at E3 this year is they're having a Super Smash Bros. Championship and also a Splatoon 2 championship. So I guess the game is also doing really well in the competitive sports area,
well,
too.
it gave us everything that we wanted in the first game, like customizable hair, octolings, and a little bit more fun to do on the side, like Salmon Run. Like, it's given us everything that we wanted with Splatoon. So, like, what more can we get? Like, what more could we want from Splatoon 2? Here's my crackpot thing that I want from Splatoon.
Yeah, crackpot.
I want orca people.
Orca people?
Yeah. I saw some concept art somebody did one time for people that had like their hair was like the bodies of a whale coming off of them. Kind of like the Zora in Breath of the Wild, like how they have like fish bodies coming off of the back of their heads. So it was kind of like that, but it was their hair and everything, and they turn into like little orcas as they like swim through the water and jump out of it and whatnot. It was really cute, and it's like, sure, ink orcas, why not? It's the future.
On that note, too, of characters being added, I'm fairly certain that they are going to cover a new downloadable character for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Oh, definitely.
I do hope that they don't spend a lot of time on it, because I don't want them to dedicate another huge chunk of the Direct to it. I'm expecting them actually to reveal more than one.
Same. I was just about to say, I'm kind of like expecting one at the start and one at the end.
Yeah.
Because like we haven't gotten anything about like the second one, and it's fucking May. Like, we're 5 months into the year.
And they did say that they would have all 5 fighters out by the end of 2019, I believe.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so where's any information at all about the second one in general?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to sound like we're poking the devs or anything, because we are genuinely excited. It's just that you get our hopes up a little bit, and we are genuinely looking forward to it.
Yeah, the developers for this game are going through a lot of work, and we heavily appreciate that and everything. And I know from experience that it can be hard to keep a particular schedule and everything for, like, for example, like, considering that we're getting 5 new characters and also Piranha Plant came out. Like, I consider Piranha Plant the first 2 months of the year, Joker second 2 months, and so on and so forth. Like somebody new every couple of months. But we're in month 5 and we don't even know the name of who the second DLC person is going to be.
And I think that's what really is making people antsy. Like, we wouldn't even really need a release date for them. I would be satisfied to just know who else is going to be in the game.
Yeah, that's what's making me antsy. It's like, I want to know who it's going to be. It feels like they're saving it for E3 so that they can be like, at E3, it's like, hey, this is the second DLC person, and they're available right now.
That would be amazing. I think what makes it even worse, to a degree, like the anticipation, is the fact that Joker was revealed as the first one, because Joker is from what was, at the time, a PlayStation exclusive. Pretty much a PlayStation exclusive series, except for some handhelds on, like, the DS. His inclusion in Smash Bros. Opened the floodgates for who could potentially be in Smash Bros. From here on out. We could get Crash. We could get Spyro. We could get any number of popular video game characters because now there really are no hard or fast rules as to who can and can't be in Smash.
Highlight video game characters, all you people asking for things like Shrek.
Well, I mean, technically he's been in video games.
I'm gonna smack you.
No, that's a horrible excuse.
That is a horrible excuse.
Yeah. Video game characters. So anyway, Nintendo, as you can probably tell, is the one that we are most looking forward to. It's the one that gives us the most hope.
I theorize that Ayane/Kasumi from Dead or Alive series is going to be in Smash Brothers.
Shut up.
All the panty sots.
Jesus. What's their down B? They knock you out with their breasts? They just slam them down onto you and you drill right into the ground.
No, their down B is going to be a downward thrust with their legs that throws their skirt up. And their side B is going to be knocking a volleyball at you.
And their grab is they just crush you between their thighs.
Actually.
Oh, that one killed us.
Yeah, Ayane is probably going to jump up on somebody's shoulders, shove her ass in their face, and then throw them with a thrust of her feet. Because that's something that she does in the game.
It's probably not going to happen, but it's funny to think about, isn't it? Anyway, like I said, I think we can both agree that Nintendo is the one that we're most looking forward to, and the one that we have the most hope for, just because Nintendo is such a big part of our lives. It's been such a big influence on us, and they have some of our favorite franchises under their belt. Also, the fact that they don't rush anything. Not really. Not usually. They're very meticulous about the time frame in which they release a new game.
I'd love to see that Dynasty Warrior Star Fox game that was in the air.
Yeah, instead we're getting a Persona 5 Dynasty Warriors game, which was revealed like a month ago now, I think.
I guess. I mean, there's a lot of Dynasty Warriors games, so we can have both.
This is true, yes.
We have Dynasty Warriors Gundam. We have Dynasty Warriors Link in the Park.
I mean, Koei Tecmo releases like 6 games a year now, so anything is possible. Though I will admit, after playing both Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors, I am kind of burnt out on the genre a bit. I need time between those Dynasty Warriors games.
Fair. So, yeah, Nintendo is definitely, they don't disappoint. Sometimes it can feel underwhelming, but, like, a lot of the other developers that so far I have said they have been underwhelming in recent times, like, for example, Sony, they were underwhelming and disappointing.
Yeah.
Nintendo, a couple of times they have released stuff that's been a bit underwhelming. Like, oh, I was expecting a little bit more or something with more substance, but this is good too. This is okay. Like, it's not great, but, and like you put strawberry syrup on my sundae instead of chocolate syrup. I still like it, but it's not what I wanted.
Yep. You just have the best analogies today.
They just come to me.
So with all that being said, that's pretty much everybody who has, like, major appearances for conferences at E3. There are going to be a couple of others. Limited Run Games is going to do a conference, and Kind of Funny Games is having a showcase. I don't really have anything to say about either of them. I'm not even really sure who Kind of Funny Games are. No offense to anybody who watches them, I'm just not familiar with their work. And Limited Run Games I find particularly interesting because they are a company that focuses on making limited edition physical releases of digital-only games. Like, they released Golf Story, they released, I believe they were the ones who did the physical releases for Wonder Boy, and things like that. And they've done like 300 games so far. They were even the ones who did the whole Jak 3 remaster. But I can't really imagine what they are going to do for an E3 conference. I will probably check it out just to see, is it just going to be announcing new stuff that they're putting out? Because they do that on Twitter all the time.
You said Jak 3 remaster? You mean like Jak and Daxter?
Yeah, they did a remaster and re-release of Jak and Daxter 3 for the PS4.
I didn't hear about that at all.
Yep. Well, like I said, they usually don't get a lot of huge press for it. I find out a lot of news about them over Twitter nowadays. But like I said, I like what they do. I just can't fathom what they would do at an E3 conference other than plug some recent releases that they're going to do. And by the way, their stuff sells out really fast. Like, I'm looking, I have their new releases page open right now. Everything except for the Aegis Defenders is sold out right now. And Aegis Defenders isn't even released yet. That's up for pre-order. But everything else on their new release section is completely sold out.
People want physical copies of games.
Yes, we do. I like it. Do you have anything else to add? Any observations or any hopes in general for anything in E3?
Well, it doesn't sound like Capcom is going to have much of a presence. And...
Well, Capcom's never had their own thing. Like, they've always given stuff to other companies. Like, I remember one year they gave a lot of stuff to Microsoft, like all of the Dead Rising 3 DLC, Ultimate, or the new Marvel vs. Capcom game got revealed there and whatnot. But they never had their own press conference, I don't believe.
Yeah, I'm not saying like as like their own press conference. I just mean like their contributions to the convention in general. Because there are these other companies. For example, I know that Sega wants to revive several of their old properties.
Yes, at least that's what they've said.
Yeah, but still only been seeing stuff for Sonic and...
Yeah, the most that they've done with their other franchises right now have been the Sega Heroes mobile game, which I will say I have been playing, and I have been enjoying quite a bit, but I would like to see, like, characters from Shinobi or Golden Axe in an actual game all their own, rather than just unlockable characters in a mobile game.
Jet Set Radio.
Jet Set Radio!
Rufio!
Anything else to add? Because I do agree with you heavily on the whole Sega thing.
There's a lot that could be said about, like, hopes and predictions for other companies just kind of popping up during, like, Microsoft or Nintendo's conference. Like you said, Sony doesn't have a presence this year, so it's like that takes away one more place that other companies can, like, divulge their own games in.
This is very true, yes. I'm just hoping that a lot of these third-party publishers don't give everything that they have to Microsoft or Nintendo. You have to keep some surprises for yourself. It just gets redundant when we see the same Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer 3 times in a row at 3 different conferences, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft did the same thing one year with one of the Assassin's Creed games, but I can't remember which one.
Does it matter? They're all the same.
This is very true, yes. So yeah, this has been our impressions, or our pre-3 impressions, all of the stuff that we would like to hope and see from this year's E3, and we'll probably do another one of these after E3 and see how much of these match up.
Okay. Do you want to do a, like, I don't know, some sort of reaction thing to E3 this year?
We'll decide that when we get closer to it. We probably could if you really wanted to. I'd be down for it.
Yeah, specifically for, I guess, the Nintendo one.
Yeah. Well, we could do the other ones too, probably.
Oh. I mean...
You're the one who brought it up.
We should wait until after E3.
Well, I mean, you're gonna have to watch them anyway to have an idea of what to contribute to the conversation. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed us rambling for damn near an hour and a half now. I had fun doing this.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So we'll see you all later, guys. Hope your day is going well. Whenever you hear this. Bye-bye.
Bye. Make sure to wear your seatbelts and change your underwear.
Life advice.